There comes a moment in every parent's life when something shifts. You spent decades nurturing them, guiding their decisions, and placing their needs above your own. Then suddenly, you notice a change in how they treat you. Perhaps they dismiss your advice with an eye roll. Maybe they speak to you with a tone they'd never use with friends or colleagues. Or perhaps most painfully, they make you feel like your thoughts, your experiences, and even your presence have become a burden to them. This transition can be devastating. After all, you're the same person who taught them to tie their shoes, who stayed up nights when they were sick, who sacrificed countless dreams so they could pursue theirs. How did the child who once looked at you with admiration now speak to you with impatience or even disdain? If you're experiencing this painful shift, you might feel tempted to remind them of everything you've done, to demand the respect you deserve. But here's the truth that many parents discover too late. Demanding respect rarely works. In fact, it often deepens the divide. In this video, I'm sharing 6 powerful strategies that can transform how your adult children see and treat you. These aren't about manipulation or guilt. They're about reclaiming your dignity and changing the dynamic in ways that naturally inspire respect rather than force it. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what changes you can make starting today that will reshape your relationship with your children. Most importantly, you'll learn how to stand in your power without creating conflict, allowing you to regain the respect you deserve while strengthening, not damaging, the bonds you cherish. Stay with me until the very end, because the last strategy is often the most difficult for parents to implement, yet it can create the most profound shift in how your children perceive you. Let's begin. Strategy 1: Release the need for their approval. The first critical step in regaining your adult children's respect might surprise you. It's about letting go of your desperate need for their approval. This counterintuitive approach is often the turning point in restoring balance to your relationship. When you consistently prioritize your children's opinions and feelings above your own, you send a powerful message that your worth depends on their validation. And once they sense this dependency, the power dynamic shifts dramatically. They begin seeing you not as an authority figure worthy of respect, but as someone whose value hinges on their acceptance. Consider the story of Eleanor, a 73-year-old grandmother who found herself walking on eggshells around her adult son. She avoided sharing her honest opinions, rearranged her schedule whenever he called, and tolerated dismissive behavior she would never accept from anyone else. "I just don't want to risk upsetting him," she explained. "What if he stops bringing the grandchildren around?" This fear-based approach backfired spectacularly. Rather than appreciating her accommodation, her son began treating her with increasing dismissiveness, often making decisions that affected her without even consulting her opinions. The transformation began when Eleanor made a simple yet profound shift. During a family dinner, when her son dismissed her suggestion about a financial matter she had expertise in, instead of backing down, she calmly stated, "You're welcome to make your own decision, but I've managed my finances successfully for 50 years, and my perspective has value." His surprise was visible. It wasn't that she argued or demanded respect. She simply refused to abandon her self-worth for his approval. In that moment, something fundamental changed in their dynamic. This doesn't mean becoming combative or rigid. It means recognizing that true respect cannot exist when you're constantly seeking validation. When you stop needing their approval, you create space for them to offer it freely rather than withhold it as a form of control. Start by noticing when you're tempting to compromise your authentic self to please your children. Are you agreeing when you actually disagree? Are you apologizing for reasonable boundaries? Are you minimizing your accomplishments or expertise to avoid seeming difficult? These subtle habits may seem like peacekeeping strategies, but they actually erode respect over time. The parent who stands confidently in their truth, even when it differs from their children's preferences, is the parent who gradually regains the respect they deserve. Remember, your children formed their initial bond with you when you were a figure of strength and certainty. By reclaiming that authentic presence, you're not creating distance. You're actually returning to the foundation that made them feel secure enough to respect you in the first place. Strategy 2. Model the respect you seek. When faced with disrespect from your adult children, your natural instinct might be to correct their behavior directly, to point out their rudeness, remind them of your sacrifices, or demand better treatment. Yet this approach almost always escalates tension rather than resolving it. The second strategy takes a completely different path. Instead of telling them how to treat you, show them through your own behavior. This powerful demonstration speaks volumes without a single word of confrontation. Consider Thomas, a 68-year-old father who found himself increasingly frustrated by his daughter's habit of interrupting him mid-sentence and dismissing his views as outdated. His initial response was to raise his voice and remind her that in my day children listened to their parents. These exchanges inevitably ended with slammed doors and silent treatments lasting days. Then Thomas tried something entirely different. The next time his daughter interrupted him, instead of reacting with frustration, he paused, waited for her to finish, and then responded with, "I was sharing a thought. I'd appreciate the courtesy of finishing my sentence, just as I make sure to listen completely to yours." He didn't lecture. He didn't rehash past offenses. He simply modeled precisely the respect he was seeking, and named it clearly without accusation. What happened next surprised him. His daughter looked slightly embarrassed and said, "Sorry, Dad, go ahead." It wasn't a dramatic transformation, but it was the beginning of a new pattern. Each time he consistently demonstrated respectful communication, even when she didn't, the dynamic gradually shifted. This strategy works because it avoids the parent-child power struggle that often emerges when you directly criticize your adult child's behavior. Instead of positioning yourself as the authority figure trying to teach them manners, you're simply modeling adult-to-adult communication standards. Pay particular attention to your tone, your body language, and your listening habits. Do you interrupt them while they're speaking? Do you dismiss their concerns or minimize their achievements? Do you speak to them with the same courtesy you would offer a respected colleague? The subtle shifts in how you communicate, making eye contact, acknowledging their points before sharing yours, respecting their time constraints, establish a template for mutual respect that becomes increasingly difficult for them to ignore. This strategy requires tremendous discipline, especially when you feel hurt by their behavior. But each time you respond to disrespect with dignity rather than defensiveness, you're not just changing one interaction, you're gradually transforming the entire relationship. If you're finding these insights valuable, please type 2 inches in the comments below. Your engagement helps me create more content specifically tailored to navigating these complex family dynamics. Strategy 3. Rebuild your emotional independence. Perhaps the most powerful shift you can make in regaining your adult children's respect involves something they may never directly see: your emotional self-sufficiency. This third strategy focuses on breaking patterns of emotional dependency that often develop as children grow into adulthood. Many parents, especially after retirement or losing a spouse, unconsciously begin relying on their adult children for their primary emotional support and connection. This growing dependency, while natural, can dramatically undermine how your children perceive you. Consider Janet, a 76-year-old widow who found herself increasingly isolated after her husband's passing. Her 3 adult children became her main source of companionship, emotional support, and daily interaction. She called them multiple times daily with updates, questions, and sometimes just to hear a familiar voice. Initially, her children responded with patience, but as months passed, Janet noticed their calls became shorter, their tone more hurried. They began screening her calls, and when they did speak, she sensed an underlying irritation. "I'm just checking in because I care," she would say, hurt by their response. But the more she reached out, the more they pulled away. The turning point came through an honest conversation with a friend who observed, "Janet, I think your children feel responsible for your happiness, and that's a burden no child can carry, no matter how much they love you." This insight, though painful, sparked a transformation. Janet joined a community center, reconnected with old friends, and began volunteering at a local hospital. She started therapy to process her grief. Most importantly, she began developing interests and relationships completely separate from her children. A remarkable shift followed. When her children realized she was calling because she wanted to connect, not because she needed them to fill an emotional void, the quality of their interactions improved dramatically. The respect in their voices returned when they understood she was thriving independently, not just surviving through their attention. This strategy requires honest self-reflection. Ask yourself, do you find yourself anxiously waiting for their calls? Do you feel devastated when they cancel plans? Do you depend on them for most of your social interaction and emotional fulfillment? Breaking patterns of emotional dependency doesn't mean loving your children less. It means creating a life rich enough that when you do connect with them, it comes from a place of wanting to share your fullness rather than needing them to fill your emptiness. Begin by identifying one area where you might be overly dependent on your children's emotional support, and take a small step toward building alternative sources of fulfillment in that area. Over time, as you rebuild your emotional independence, you'll notice a profound shift in how they respond to you, not with obligation, but with genuine respect for the whole person you continue to be. Strategy 4. Establish clear, consistent boundaries. One of the most reliable indicators that your relationship with your adult children needs recalibration is when you regularly feel disrespected, overlooked, or taken for granted. While the previous strategies focus on internal shifts in your approach, this fourth strategy addresses the external behaviors you will and won't accept. Many parents hesitate to set boundaries with their adult children, fearing conflict or rejection. Yet without clear boundaries, respect cannot flourish. Your willingness to establish and maintain these limits communicates something essential: that you value yourself enough to require respectful treatment. Consider Robert, a 70-year-old father who had always prided himself on being available whenever his children needed him. He dropped everything when they called, loaned money without question, and never complained when plans were canceled at the last minute. His philosophy was simple: that's what parents do. Over time, however, he noticed a troubling pattern. His opinions were dismissed, his time was considered endlessly flexible, and his needs were consistently placed last. The breaking point came when his daughter canceled their standing Sunday dinner for the third week in a row, with a text message sent just 30 minutes before she was expected. Instead of accepting this as he always had, Robert made a decision. When his daughter called the following week suggesting dinner, he responded calmly, "I'd love to see you, but I need at least a day's notice. When plans are canceled last minute repeatedly, it feels like my time isn't valued, and I'm no longer comfortable with that arrangement." His daughter was initially defensive, but Robert held firm without anger or accusation. He simply stated his boundary, and the consequence of crossing it. To his surprise, not only did his daughter begin respecting his time, but the quality of their interactions improved. By valuing his own time, he had inadvertently taught her to value it too. Effective boundaries share several characteristics. They're clear, consistent, and communicated calmly. They focus on what you will do, not what you demand others do. Most importantly, they have consequences that you're willing to enforce. Begin by identifying one area where you consistently feel disrespected. Perhaps they interrupt you when you're speaking, arrive significantly late without apology, or make decisions that affect you without consultation. Then develop a clear, concise statement. Names the specific behavior, not their character or intentions. Expresses how it impacts you, states what you will do if the boundary is crossed. For example, when you use that tone with me, I feel disrespected. If it continues, I'll need to end our conversation and try again another time. The key to this strategy is consistency. A boundary enforced sporadically becomes merely a suggestion. Each time you maintain your boundary with calm resolve, you're rebuilding the foundation of respect in your relationship. If you're finding these strategies helpful, please type 4 inches in the comments.
Your feedback helps me understand which aspects of rebuilding respect with adult children resonate most with your experience. Strategy 5. Practice strategic generosity. The fifth strategy addresses a pattern many parents don't recognize until significant damage has been done: the relationship between endless giving and diminishing respect. While generosity is a beautiful expression of parental love, when it becomes expected rather than appreciated, it actually erodes the very relationship it aims to strengthen. Many parents continue giving to their adult children, financially, practically, and emotionally, without requiring the basic currency of respect in return. This unbalanced exchange creates a dangerous dynamic where your contributions become invisible, taken for granted as an entitlement rather than recognized as the gifts they truly are. Consider Martha, a 75-year-old grandmother who spent years providing free childcare for her grandchildren 5 days a week, often rearranging her own medical appointments and social activities to accommodate her daughter's schedule. Despite this tremendous commitment, her daughter frequently criticized her caregiving methods, changed plans without notice, and rarely expressed gratitude. When Martha gently raised concerns about feeling underappreciated, her daughter responded with, "But that's what grandmothers do. You should be grateful for the time with your grandchildren." This comment revealed the fundamental imbalance. Martha's significant contribution had been reframed as a privilege rather than recognized as the generous gift it was. The transformation began when Martha implemented strategic generosity, a thoughtful approach to giving that maintains both her dignity and the value of her contributions. She didn't stop caring for her grandchildren, but she established clear parameters: 3 scheduled days per week, with advance notice for any changes, and an acknowledgement that her time was a gift, not an obligation. Initially, her daughter was upset by these new limitations, but something remarkable happened as Martha held firm. Her contributions began to be seen as valuable again. The very scarcity of her availability increased its perceived worth, and gradually, expressions of appreciation returned to their interactions. Strategic generosity doesn't mean becoming selfish or withholding your love. It means recognizing that endless unconditional giving without reciprocal respect creates an unhealthy imbalance that ultimately damages both parties. Your adult children benefit from understanding that even parental love has boundaries, and that respect is the foundation upon which family support functions best. Begin by identifying areas where your generosity has become expected rather than appreciated. This might include financial support, practical help like childcare or home repairs, or emotional labor, such as always being the one to maintain family connections. Then consider, is this contribution recognized and valued? Is it given freely or with resentment? Has it become an expectation rather than a gift? Where you identify imbalance, introduce thoughtful limitations that restore value to your contributions. This might mean reducing frequency, requiring advance notice, or simply naming your generosity for what it is: a choice you make, not an obligation you fulfill. As you practice strategic generosity, you'll discover that limiting certain types of giving often creates space for more meaningful connection. The respect that returns isn't based on what you provide, but on who you are, a person whose time, energy, and contributions have inherent value. Strategy 6. Cultivate a vibrant, independent life. The final and perhaps most transformative strategy for regaining your adult children's respect involves something that seems completely unrelated to them: building a rich, engaging life that exists independently of your role as their parent. Many parents, particularly after retirement, find their identity still primarily centered around their children and grandchildren. While family relationships remain precious, when your entire sense of purpose and fulfillment revolves around your adult children, it creates a subtle but powerful imbalance that often diminishes their respect. Consider William, a 72-year-old retired engineer, whose conversations inevitably circled back to his children's accomplishments and grandchildren's activities. He scheduled his life around their availability, rarely made plans that might conflict with potential family gatherings, and had few interests that didn't involve them in some way. When his son once commented, "Dad, don't you have anything else going?" William was deeply hurt, but the comment revealed an uncomfortable truth. His children saw him primarily as dad, rather than as a full human being with his own interests, passions, and contributions to make. The transformation began when William, initially just to prove a point, joined a volunteer engineering corps that helped design water systems for developing communities. What started as almost an act of defiance became a passionate engagement. For the first time in years, he had conversations that didn't revolve around his family. He made decisions based on his own interests, rather than potential family. A remarkable shift followed. His children began asking about his projects with genuine curiosity. They started seeking his advice on matters beyond family concerns. Most notably, their tone changed from one of tolerant patience to engaged respect. They weren't just humoring Dad anymore. They were connecting with William, a man making meaningful contributions to the world. This strategy works because it addresses a fundamental truth about human psychology. We respect those who have a sense of purpose, passion, and self-direction. When your adult children see you solely through the lens of your relationship to them, it's easy for them to take you for granted. When they see you as a complete person with a life that flourishes independently of them, their perspective fundamentally changes. Begin by honestly assessing how much of your identity and daily life centers around your role as parent or grandparent. Then identify one area where you could develop interests, relationships, or contributions completely separate from you. This might mean reviving a long-abandoned passion or hobby, developing new skills through classes or training, volunteering in areas that leverage your life experience, building new friendships with people who know you only as yourself, not as someone's parent. As you build this independent identity, resist the temptation to constantly share these activities with your children or seek their approval. The power of this strategy lies partly in their discovery that you are thriving in spheres they know little about. If you're finding these insights valuable, please type 6 inches in comments below. Your engagement helps me create more resources specifically addressing the challenges parents face in maintaining healthy relationships with adult children. Final thoughts. The path to renewed respect. As we conclude our exploration of these 6 strategies, it's important to recognize a fundamental truth. Regaining your adult children's respect isn't about changing them. It's about changing yourself and the dynamic you've co-created over time. The parent who stands firmly in their self-worth, who models respectful communication, who maintains who establishes clear boundaries, who practices strategic generosity, and who cultivates a vibrant independent life, isn't just doing these things to earn their children's respect. They're reclaiming their own dignity and wholeness, which naturally commands respect from everyone they encounter, including their adult children. This journey requires patience. Relationship patterns established over decades don't transform overnight. There may be resistance as you implement these changes, perhaps even temporary distance, as the dynamic recalibrates. Yet in most cases, these strategic shifts gradually restore balance to a relationship that has tilted too far toward dependency, obligation, or taken for granted habits. Remember that your goal isn't to create perfect children who never disappoint you. Your goal is to establish a healthy adult-to-adult, where mutual respect forms the foundation of continued connection. This respect isn't based on their gratitude for what you've done in the past, but on their recognition of who you are in the present, a complete human being worthy of consideration, attention, and dignity. Start today by choosing just one of these strategies that resonates most strongly with your situation. Small, consistent changes in how you show up in the relationship will gradually create a new pattern that better serves both you and your children. The respect you regain isn't just about satisfying your need for appreciation. It's about creating a healthier relationship that can sustain meaningful connection through the remaining chapters of your life together. Thank you for joining me today. I'd love to hear your experiences with these strategies. Please share in the comments which approach resonates most with your situation, or any insights you've gained in your own journey toward reclaiming respect in your family relationships. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others who might benefit from these perspectives. Your support enables us to continue creating content that addresses the real challenges families face as they navigate the complex terrain of adult parent-child relationships. Until next time, remember that by standing firmly in your own worth, you create the very foundation upon which respect can naturally flourish.